Imagine you're walking along a windy cliff on a sunny afternoon, the sea crashing below. When you spot a man lying still on the rocks, his eyes wide open, whispering something strange with his last breath, you lean closer, heart pounding, and hear him gasp, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" before he's gone forever. What does it mean? Was it an accident or something far darker? Welcome to Poirot's Genius Unlocks the Deadly Secret of Why Didn't They Ask Evans? Where Hercule Poirot, the world's cleverest detective, dives into a tangled web of secrets, lies, and murder in a sleepy seaside town. So, grab a cup of tea, hit that like button, and let's unravel this baffling mystery with Poirot's little grey cells leading the way. The salty breeze sweeps across the cliffs of Marchbolt, a quiet seaside town in Wales, as Hercule Poirot, his moustache perfectly twirled, stands on the rugged path, gazing at the crashing waves below. It's a bright summer day in 1934, and Poirot, on a rare holiday with his loyal friend Captain Hastings, has stumbled into a chilling mystery. A local vicar, Reverend Thomas, has just rushed to their inn, pale and shaken, with news of a man found dead at the cliff's edge. His last words a cryptic plea. Why didn't they ask Evans? Hastings, sipping tea in the inn's cosy lounge, sets his cup down with a clatter. Poirot, a man falling off a cliff, sounds like a tragic accident. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, accidents do not whisper riddles. Hercule Poirot will uncover the truth behind this man's death. The clue's the stranger's final words, the isolated cliff, and the vicar's unease point to a mystery far deeper than a simple fall. The seaside air hums with secrets, and Poirot is ready to dive in. Poirot begins by questioning Reverend Thomas, whose hands tremble as he recounts finding the man. Sprawled on the rocks, a golf ball nearby suggesting he was a player from the local course, he was still alive, just barely, Thomas says, his voice low. He said, "Why didn't they ask Evans, then nothing?" Poirot's fingers tap his cane, his mind racing. A name, a code, or a regret? None, he murmurs. Hastings frowns, puzzled. Evans, could be anyone around here. Poirot nods, noting the man's description, middle-aged, well-dressed, with a wallet identifying him as John Savage, a wealthy businessman from London. A businessman on holiday, yet alone on a cliff, Poirot says. Curious, they visit. The cliff, its steep drop dizzying against the sparkling sea. Poirot examines the spot where Savage fell, finding scuff marks in the grass, as if a struggle occurred. Not a slip, mon ami, he says, pointing to the marks. Someone pushed him. Hastings' eyes widen. Murder? Over what? Poirot kneels, spotting a crumpled cigarette case near the edge. Its initials JS matching Savage's, a clue. He murmurs, pocketing it. The case smells faintly of perfume, not a man's scent. A woman was here, Poirot says, his heart racing. He suspects Savage's death ties to his wealth or a secret he carried. Hinted at by his final words, Poirot meets the local constable, Mr. Davies, at the police station, a small building buzzing with gossip about Savages. We thought it was an accident, Davies says, scratching his head. No enemies, no witnesses. Poirot shows the cigarette case, asking about women close to Savage. Davies mentions a local nurse, Miss Evans, who worked at Savage's hotel, and a London heiress, Sylvia Bassington, seen with him at the golf club. Evans again. Poirot murmurs, his mind buzzing. He asks about Savage's business, learning he dealt in risky investments with ties to a shady London firm. Money breeds enemies, Poirot says, his tone sharp. Back at the inn, Poirot studies the cigarette case. Its perfume a floral hint of jasmine. Miss Evans or Mademoiselle Bassington? He wonders aloud. Hastings looks uneasy. A nurse or an heiress both sound harmless. Poirot's smile is faint. Harmless, mon ami, until a man falls. He sends a telegram to Inspector Japp in London, asking for Savage's financial records and details on Sylvia Bassington. We must know his world, Poirot says. The inn's owner, Mrs. Carter, overhears. Mentioning Savage argued with a man at the golf club, a tall stranger, with a limp. Another shadow, Poirot murmurs, noting the detail. Poirot visits the golf club. Its green fairways bustling with players. The manager, Mr. Lloyd, confirms Savage played alone but met Sylvia Bassington for drinks. She's charming, Lloyd says, but sharp knows money. Poirot finds a torn letter in the club's trash, its handwriting sharp. Meet me. At the Cliff Urgent, S.B. Sylvia, Poirot says, his eyes gleaming. The letter mentions a will, hinting at Savage's fortune. A motive, perhaps, he tells Hastings. The sea breeze carries a chill, mirroring the mystery's depth. Poirot knows the riddle. Why didn't they ask Evans? Holds the key, but the shadows are many. We're just stepping onto the cliffside of this baffling mystery, with Poirot sniffing out murder in John Savage's fall and the strange whisper of Evans. Who pushed him? Is Sylvia the key, or Miss Evans? Stick with us for Chapter 2, where Poirot tracks Sylvia Bassington and digs into Savage's secrets. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Who do you suspect? Let's solve this with Poirot. The salty breeze whips across Marchbolt's cliffs, carrying the tang of the sea as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, strides toward the elegant Marchbolt Golf Club with Captain Hastings at his side. It's a bright summer afternoon in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his cryptic last words. Why didn't they ask Evans? Has set Poirot's little grey cells buzzing. The scuff marks on the cliff, the jasmine-scented cigarette case with J.S. initials, and the torn letter signed S.B. mentioning a will point to Sylvia Bassington, a wealthy London heiress. Seen with Savage. Poirot, Sylvia's just a socialite. Could she really push a man off a cliff? Hastings asks, squinting against the sun. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, charm is a dangerous veil, and Hercule Poirot will lift it. Today, we meet Mademoiselle Bassington and uncover her secrets. The clues, Savage's words, the struggle marks, the cigarette case, the letter, and the mention of Nurse Evans hint at a deadly plot in this sleepy town. The sea crashes below, and Poirot is ready to chase the truth. Poirot begins by reviewing the torn letter, its sharp handwriting and S.B. signature burning in his mind. Sylvia Bassington met Savage at the cliff, he murmurs, clutching the cigarette case. Its jasmine scent lingering. But why? Hastings frowns, adjusting his hat. Money, maybe. Savage was rich. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Money, or a secret tied to his will. He recalls Reverend Thomas's story. Savage, a London businessman, fell alone, but the scuff marks suggest a struggle. The letter's mention of a will hints at Sylvia's interest in Savage's fortune. She is no mere bystander, Poirot says. We find her at the club. He sends a telegram to Inspector Japp, requesting Sylvia's financial records and any ties to Savage's business. They enter the golf club, its polished lounge buzzing with wealthy patrons. Sipping drinks, Sylvia, a tall woman with striking blonde hair and a dazzling smile, lounges at a table, her silk dress catching the light. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings. What a surprise, she says, her voice smooth but her eyes wary. Poirot smiles, his tone polite. Mademoiselle Bassington, we speak of John Savage's sad fall. You knew him, non? Sylvia's fingers tighten. On her glass, her smile faltering. A friend, yes, such a tragedy. Poirot shows the cigarette case, its jasmine scent matching her perfume. Yours, perhaps. Sylvia laughs too quick. Many use jasmine, Mr. Poirot. Poirot presses his questions gentle but sharp. You met him at the cliff, non? This letter suggests it. He holds up the torn SB note. Sylvia's face pales, her hand brushing a gold locket. I met him for drinks, not cliffs. She snaps. Hastings distracts her with talk of golf, allowing Poirot to notice a notebook in her purse. Its pages marked with dates and Sumson labelled JSU discussed his will. Poirot asks. Sylvia stands, her voice sharp. You accuse me? I barely knew him. But her eyes dart to the notebook, betraying her. Poirot's heart races. Sylvia's charm hides a motive, likely tied to Savage's wealth. Poirot visits the local inn, questioning Mrs. Carter, who saw Sylvia with Savage days before his death. They argued. She says something about papers. Poirot's mind buzzes the will, perhaps a contested inheritance. He examines the notebook, finding entries for payments to a Dr. N, possibly Nurse Evans, a connection, he murmurs, pocketing it for Jap. A telegram arrives. Sylvia's finances are shaky, her family's fortune dwindling, and Savage was her investor. Greed, Poirot says, or desperation. He suspects Sylvia lured Savage to the cliff, but the Evans riddle remains. Poirot meets Constable Davies, sharing the letter and notebook. Sylvia's no killer, Davies says, but she's sharp with money. Poirot asks about Nurse Evans, learning she cared for Savage's friend, a reclusive millionaire, Mr. Carstairs, who died recently. Evans again, Poirot says, his eyes gleaming. He plans to visit Nurse Evans at her cottage, probing her link to Savage and Sylvia. The sea breeze carries a chill, and the cliffs loom with secrets. Poirot knows Sylvia's charm conceals a truth, but the riddle. Why didn't they ask Evans? Points elsewhere. We're chasing Sylvia's charm through Marchbolt's sunny cliffs, with Poirot uncovering her ties to Savage's will. Is she the killer? Or does Nurse Evans hold the key? Stick with us for Chapter 3, where Poirot meets Evans and digs deeper into the riddle. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Sylvia guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer sun bathes Marchbolt's winding lanes in golden light, but a chill lingers as Hercule Poirot, his mustache gleaming, approaches Nurse Evans's modest cottage, with Captain Hastings trailing nervously. It's a warm afternoon in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death is haunting. Last words. Why didn't they ask Evans? Has deepened with Sylvia Bassington's shaky finances and her notebook linking to Dr. N. Poirot's little grey cells are ablaze, suspecting Nurse Evans, who cared for Savage's late friend Mr. Carstairs, holds a key to the riddle. Poirot, a nurse committing murder? That's grim, Hastings says. His voice low as they knock on the cottage door. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami, a nurse sees life and death, she knows secrets. Today, Hercule. Poirot meets Nurse Evans and unveils her shadow. The clues, Savage's words, the scuff marks, the jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter, and the notebook's Dr. N point to a tangled web of greed and betrayal. The sea hums in the distance, and Poirot is ready to probe deeper. Poirot begins by reviewing Sylvia's notebook, its payments to Dr. N suggesting a link to Nurse Evans. She cared for Carstairs, who left a fortune, he murmurs, clutching the cigarette case, its jasmine-scented a lingering clue. Hastings frowns, wiping his brow. Carstairs, another death. Poirot nods, his mind racing. To deaths, one riddle Evans connects them. He recalls Savage's business ties to Carstairs, a millionaire whose will favor distant relatives, not Savage. The letter's mention of a will, signed SB, hints Sylvia sought Savage's fortune. But Nurse Evans's role is unclear. She saw Carstairs's end, Poirot says. We ask why Savage spoke her name, Nurse Evans. A stout woman with kind eyes and a crisp apron opens the door, her smile fading at Poirot's serious face. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings. What brings you?" she asks, her voice steady but cautious. Poirot smiles, his tone polite. "Mademoiselle Evans, we speak of John Savage's fall." "You knew him?" Evans nods, her hand smoothing her apron. "I nursed his friend, Mr. Carstairs. He visited often." Poirot shows the cigarette case. It's jasmine scent matching her perfume. "Yours, perhaps?" Evans laughs softly. "Jasmine's common here, sir." But her fingers twitch, betraying nerves. Poirot presses, his questions gentle but sharp. "Savage spoke your name as he died. Why didn't they ask Evans? Why?" Evans pales, her eyes darting to a locked box on a shelf. "I don't know," she says, her voice shaky. Hastings distracts her with talk of nursing, allowing Poirot to notice a letter in her apron, its edge marked JSU. "Saw Savage's will?" Poirot asks, pointing to the letter. Evans flinches. He asked about Carstairs' will, nothing more. Poirot's heart races. Evans knows more than she admits. Perhaps about a changed will or hidden fortune. He mentions Sylvia. She met Savage at the cliff. Evans hesitates, then nods. She was pushy, wanted his money. Poirot visits the vicarage, questioning Reverend Thomas about Carstairs. He was ill. Left everything to cousins, Thomas says, but Savage was upset. Poirot's mind buzzes. Savage expected a share, perhaps altered by Evans. A telegram from Jap arrives. Carstairs' will was revised days before his death, witnessed by Nurse Evans. A motive, Poirot murmurs, suspecting Evans manipulated the will, angering Savage. He examines the letter from Evans's apron, finding a note. "Tell no one J.S. Savage trusted her." Poirot says, pocketing it. He plans to search Carstairs' old estate, hoping for more clues. At the estate, now empty, Poirot finds a hidden drawer in Carstairs' study containing a draft while naming Savage as heir. Evans changed it. He tells Hastings, noting her access as nurse. The sea breeze carries a warning, and Poirot suspects Evans's kind face hides greed. He wires Jap to check Evans's bank records, seeking payments from Sylvia or others. The cliffs loom nearby, their shadows lengthening. Poirot knows Evans's role is pivotal, but the riddle, why didn't they ask Evans, suggests a deeper secret. We're chasing Nurse Evans's shadow through Marchbolt's sunny lanes, with Poirot uncovering her link to Savage's will. Is she the killer, or is Sylvia still key? Stick with us for Chapter 4, where Poirot searches Carstairs' estate and finds a new suspect. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Evans guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer sun dips low over Marchbolt's cliffs, casting long shadows across the sprawling grounds of Mr. Carstairs' abandoned estate. As Hercule Poirot, his mustache gleaming, steps through the creaking gates with Captain Hastings at his side. It's a warm evening in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his cryptic words, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" has grown darker with Nurse Evans's suspicious role in altering Carstairs' will, cutting Savage out of a fortune. Sylvia Bassington's notebook and her meeting with Savage at the cliff point to greed. But Poirot's little grey cells are buzzing with the estate's hidden truths. Poirot. This place feels haunted. Could it hold the key to murder? Hastings asks, his voice tense as they approach the dusty manor. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp. Mon ami, estates hide secrets like graves hide bones, and Hercule Poirot will dig them up. Tonight, we search Carstairs' home for the truth, the clues, Savage's words, the scuff marks, the jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter, the notebooks Dr. N, and the draft will point to a deadly conspiracy. The sea roars below, and Poirot is ready to unearth the past. Poirot begins by reviewing the draft will. Its clear naming of Savage as a stark contrast to the final version, favouring Carstairs' cousins. Evans changed it, he murmurs, clutching the letter from her apron. Tell no one J.S. Hastings frowns, gripping his coat. She cheated Savage enough to kill for. Poirot nods, his mind racing. Greed or fear, Monomy Evans knew something. He recalls Savage's business ties to Carstairs, a millionaire whose death left questions. Sylvia's notebook linked payments to Dr. N, likely Evans, suggesting collusion. The estate holds answers. Poirot says his cane tapping the manor's steps. He suspects a hidden document or clue explaining Savage's final words inside. The manor's dusty halls echo with silence, its furniture draped in sheets. Poirot examines Carstairs' study, finding a locked safe behind a painting. A rich man's secrets, he murmurs, picking the lock with skill. Inside, he finds a bundle of letters. One from Savage to Carstairs, begging for a loan. My business fails, I need your help. Another, from a lawyer named Roger Nicholson, warns Carstairs about Savage's risky investments. A motive, Poirot says, pocketing the letters. Hastings looks uneasy. Savage was desperate. Did he confront Evans? Poirot nods, suspecting. Savage's cliffside meeting was about the will, not Sylvia. They searched the bedroom, finding a photo of Carstairs with Nurse Evans, and a tall man with a limp, the stranger from the golf club. Our shadow, Poirot murmurs, noting the man's. Sharp features. A telegram from Jap arrives. Evans received large payments from an unknown account. After Carstairs' death, bribes or blackmail, Poirot says, his heart racing. He questions the estate's caretaker, Mr. Owen, who recalls Evans acting nervous during Carstairs' final days. She burned papers, Owen says, pointing to a fireplace with ash traces. Poirot sifts through, finding a singed note. Evans knows don't trust her. J.S. Savage suspected her, Poirot says. Poirot visits Sylvia Bassington at her hotel, showing the singed note. You knew Savage's loss, he says, his tone sharp. Sylvia's eyes flash. He was broke, wanted my money. She admits meeting him at the cliff to discuss investments, but denies pushing him. He was drunk, upset about Carstairs, she says. Poirot's mind buzzes. Sylvia's greed aligns with Evans's actions, but the limping man is a new player. He wires Jap to trace Roger Nicholson, the lawyer, suspecting he's the stranger. The sea breeze carries a warning, and the cliffs loom with danger. Poirot knows the estate's secrets point to a killer, but Evans remains the riddle's heart. We're unearthing secrets in Carstairs' dusty estate, with Poirot finding Savage's desperation and a limping stranger. Is Roger Nicholson the key, or is Evans the killer? Stick with us for Chapter 5, where Poirot tracks Nicholson and tightens the net. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Nicholson guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer sun hangs low over Marchbolt's rugged cliffs, casting a golden glow across the sleepy seaside town as Hercule Poirot, his mustache impeccably twirled, strides purposefully toward the local train station with Captain Hastings trailing behind, his face etched with unease. It's a warm evening in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his haunting last words. Why didn't they ask Evans? Has grown more tangled with Nurse Evans's suspicious role in altering Mr. Carstairs' will, and the emergence of Roger Nicholson, a lawyer with a limp, seen in a photo with Carstairs and possibly the tall stranger from the golf club. Sylvia Bassington's notebook with payments to Dr. N, and the singed note warning Evans knows don't trust her have set Poirot's little grey cells ablaze. Poirot A lawyer pushing someone off a cliff? That's a stretch. Hastings says, his voice low as they weave through the bustling station. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, a limp does not slow a cunning mind, and Hercule Poirot will unmask this lawyer's secrets. Tonight, we track Roger Nicholson and unravel the riddle. The clues Savage's words. The scuff marks, the jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's. Letter, the notebook, the draft will, the singed note. And the limping stranger point to a deadly web of greed and betrayal. The sea crashes below, and Poirot is ready to chase the truth. Poirot begins by reviewing the singed note from Carstairs' estate. Its warning about Nurse Evans echoing in his mind. Savage distrusted her, he murmurs, clutching the photo of Carstairs, Evans, and the limping man whose sharp features hint at Nicholson. Hastings wipes his brow, his voice tense. Evans cheated Savage out of a fortune. Could Nicholson be her partner? Poirot nods, his mind racing like the waves. Below, a lawyer knows wills, mon ami, and Nicholson advised Carstairs. He recalls the draft will naming Savage as heir, overwritten by a final version favouring distant cousins, witnessed by Evans. The notebook's payments to Dr. N suggest Evans and Sylvia colluded, but Nicholson's limp links him to the golf club stranger who argued with Savage. He was at the cliff, perhaps, Poirot says, his cane tapping the station platform. He sent a telegram to Inspector Japp earlier, requesting Nicholson's background and any ties to Carstairs or Savage. The station is alive with travellers, the air thick with coal smoke and the clatter of trains. Poirot learns from the ticket clerk that Nicholson took a train to London that morning, his limp noticeable as he boarded in a hurry. He's running, Hastings says, his eyes wide. Poirot's smile is faint but determined. Running, yes, but not from Hercule Poirot. He examines the photo again, noting Nicholson's tailored suit and sharp gaze, a man of ambition. A porter, overhearing, mentions seeing Nicholson with a woman at the station, blonde, elegant, like Sylvia Bassington, Mademoiselle Bassington. Again, Poirot murmurs, suspecting a conspiracy. He decides to follow Nicholson to London, booking tickets for the next train, but first visits the local telegraph office to check for messages. At the telegraph office, Poirot finds a discarded draft from Nicholson to Carstairs' cousin, a Mr. Henry Bassington, Sylvia's brother, urging him to secure the estate. A family plot, Poirot says, his heart racing. The draft mentions a meeting at the cliff, dated the day of Savage's death. Nicholson was there. He tells Hastings, pocketing the draft. Hastings looks stunned. Sylvia's brother? This is big, Poirot. Poirot nods, recalling Sylvia's shaky finances and her argument with Savage. The Bassingtons wanted Carstairs' fortune, and Savage stood in their way. He suspects Nicholson, as their lawyer, altered the will with Evans, cutting Savage out and sparking his fatal confrontation. Poirot and Hastings board the train to London, the countryside blurring past as Poirot sketches the cliff scene in his notebook. Savage, Nicholson, possibly Sylvia, the scuff marks showing a struggle. Nicholson pushed him, Poirot murmurs, or covered for another. He reviews the cigarette case. It's jasmine scent tying to Sylvia or Evans. A telegram from Japp arrives as the train rattles along. Nicholson, a solicitor with a history of shady clients, handled Carstairs' legal affairs and was seen in Marchbolt with Henry Bassington days before Savage's death. Henry, Poirot says, his eyes gleaming. Another shadow emerges. Japp notes Henry's limp from an old injury, matching the golf club stranger. Not Nicholson, then, Hastings says, confused. Poirot shakes his head. Both limp. Mon ami, clever misdirection. In London, they track Nicholson to his office in Lincoln's Inn, a grand building with oak-panelled walls. Nicholson, Thin man with a pronounced limp and sharp eyes greets them warily. "Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings." "What's this about?" he asks, his voice smooth but tense. Poirot smiles, his tone polite but probing. "Monsieur Nicholson, we speak of John Savage's fall in Marchbolt. You knew him, none?" Nicholson's fingers tighten on a pen, his limp noticeable as he shifts. "A client. Yes, tragic accident." Poirot shows the telegraph draft mentioning the cliff meeting. "You were there with Monsieur Bassington?" Nicholson's face pales, his voice sharp. "I advise clients not push them off cliffs." Poirot presses, his questions gentle but relentless. "You altered Carstairs' will?" "None, with Nurse Evans." Nicholson laughs to loud. "Standard procedure. Carstairs changed his mind." Poirot shows the singed note. Evans knows don't trust her. "Savage wrote this," he says, "because you betrayed him." Nicholson's eyes dart to a locked drawer, his hand trembling. Hastings distracts him with talk of law, allowing Poirot to notice a file labelled Bassington Estate, its pages detailing payments to Evans. "You worked for Sylvia and Henry," Poirot says, his tone cold. Nicholson denies it, but his limp worsens as he paces, betraying nerves. Poirot visits the Marchbolt Inn upon their return, questioning Mrs. Carter about Henry Bassington. Tall, limped a bit, argued with Savage at the club, she says, confirming. Chap's description. Poirot finds a guest book entry. Henry stayed in Marchbolt the night Savage died. With Sylvia. A family affair, he murmurs, suspecting Henry, not Nicholson, pushed Savage with Sylvia's urging. He examines the file, finding a letter from Henry to Nicholson. Get Evans to sign. Savage mustn't know. They planned it. Poirot tells Hastings, his heart racing. The sea breeze carries a chill, and the cliffs loom with danger. Poirot knows Henry Bassington is the key, but Evans's role in the riddle remains. We're chasing the lawyer's limp through Marchbolt and London, with Poirot uncovering Henry Bassington's role and Evans's betrayal. Is Henry the killer? Or does Nicholson hide more? Stick with us for Chapter 6, where Poirot confronts Henry and tightens the net around the riddle. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below. Is Henry guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer sun casts a warm glow over Marchbolt's quaint streets, but a chill of suspicion lingers as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, strides toward the luxurious Marchbolt Hotel with Captain Hastings trailing behind, his face tense with anticipation. It's a balmy evening in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his cryptic last words, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" has grown darker with the revelation that Henry Bassington, Sylvia's brother and the limping stranger from the golf club, was involved in a plot to secure Carstairs' fortune. Roger Nicholson's file and the singed note warning. Evans knows don't trust her point to a conspiracy involving Nurse Evans and the Bassington siblings, with Henry's limp tying him to the cliffside struggle. Poirot's little grey cells are ablaze, piecing together the threads of greed and betrayal. Poirot. Henry's a gentleman. Could he really be a killer? Hastings asks, his voice low as they approach the hotel's grand entrance. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, a gentleman's burden can weigh heavy with guilt, and Hercule Poirot will lift it. Tonight, we confront Henry Bassington and unravel his role. The clues, Savage's words, the scuff marks. The jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter, the notebooks Dr. N, the draft will. The singed note, and Henry's limp point to a deadly family plot. The sea hums in the distance, and Poirot is ready to expose the truth. Poirot begins by reviewing Nicholson's file. The letter from Henry urging Evans to sign burning in his mind. Henry wanted Carstairs' fortune, he murmurs, clutching. The singed note from the estate, Savage was a threat. Hastings wipes his brow, his voice uneasy. Henry and Sylvia working together. That's cold. Poirot nods, his mind racing like the waves below the cliffs. Cold, yes, but driven by desperation. Sylvia's finances were failing, and Henry's limp hides ambition. He recalls the golf club incident. Henry argued with Savage, likely about the altered will that cut Savage out. The notebook's payments to Dr. N suggest Evans was bribed, and Henry's presence in Marchbolt on the murder night, confirmed by the inn's guest book, places him at the cliff. We question him, Poirot says, his cane tapping the hotel's marble floor. He will crack. They enter the hotel's opulent lounge, its chandeliers casting a golden glow over velvet chairs. Henry Bassington, a tall man with a slight, limp and sharp features, sips a drink at the bar, his eyes scanning the room nervously. Mr. Poirot. Captain Hastings, an unexpected visit, he says, his voice smooth but his limp more pronounced as he stands. Poirot smiles, his tone polite but probing. Monsieur Bassington, we speak of John Savage's fall. You argued with him, non? Henry's hand tightens on his glass, his smile forced. A business disagreement, nothing more. Poirot shows the jasmine cigarette case, its scent linking to Sylvia. Your sister met him at the cliff, and you were nearby. Henry's eyes flash. You accuse us? Poirot presses, his questions gentle but relentless. You wrote to Nicholson about the will, urging Evans to sign. Why? Henry laughs, his voice shaky. Legal matters. Carstairs was family. Poirot holds up the singed note. Evans knows don't trust her. Savage wrote this, fearing betrayal. He says. Henry's face pales, his limp worsening as he shifts. I don't know that note. He snaps, but his fingers tremble. Hastings distracts him with talk of golf, allowing Poirot to notice. A small key in Henry's pocket engraved with a bank's crest. You secured Carstairs' fortune. None? Poirot asks, pointing to the key. Henry's defiance falters, his eyes darting to the door. Poirot summons Inspector Japp, who arrives with a file on Henry, a gambler with debts, reliant on Sylvia's dwindling wealth. You needed Carstairs' money, Poirot says, his tone cold. Henry slumps, admitting he pressured Evans to alter the will, promising her a cut. Savage found out, he says, he was furious, threatened to expose us. Poirot's heart races. Henry was at the cliff, but did he push Savage? He asks about the argument, noting Henry's limp matches the golf club strangers. I met him to talk. Henry insists not to kill. Poirot notices a torn ticket stub in Henry's coat for a train leaving Marchbolt the night of the murder. You fled, he says, pocketing it. Poirot visits the vicarage, showing Reverend Thomas the ticket stub. Henry was agitated that night, Thomas recalls, muttering about Savage. Poirot's mind buzzes. Henry's motive is clear, but the Evans riddle suggests another layer. He examines the key, suspecting it opens a bank box with Carstairs' papers. A telegram from Japp confirms Henry accessed a bank in London, withdrawing funds after Savage's death. He profited, Poirot murmurs, planning to visit the bank. He questions Mrs. Carter at the inn, who recalls Henry with a woman not Sylvia, but dark-haired, possibly Evans. A conspiracy, Poirot says, his eyes gleaming. The cliffs loom nearby, their shadows lengthening with the truth. The sea breeze carries a warning, and Poirot knows Henry's burdened greed and desperation points to murder. But Evans's role remains key. We follow the money, he tells. Hastings and the riddle will speak. The summer air hums with secrets, and Poirot is close to the killer's trail. We're lifting the burden of Henry's guilt, with Poirot uncovering his plot with Evans and Sylvia. Did Henry push Savage, or is Evans the true shadow? Stick with us for Chapter 7. where Poirot chases the bank key and digs deeper into the riddle. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Henry the killer? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer fog rolls in from the sea, cloaking Marchbolt's quiet streets as Hercule Poirot. His moustache gleaming under a gas lamp boards a train to London with Captain Hastings, whose face is tight with nervous excitement. It's a cool evening in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his cryptic last words, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" has tightened with Henry Bassington's confession of pressuring Nurse Evans to alter Carstairs' will, cutting Savage out of a fortune. The bank key found in Henry's pocket, engraved with a London bank's crest, and his withdrawal of funds after Savage's death have set Poirot's little grey cells ablaze. Poirot, Henry's got motive and opportunity, surely he's our man. Hastings says, his voice low as the train rattles toward the city. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, a key unlocks more than a box, it unlocks truth, and Hercule Poirot will turn it. Today, we chase the bank's secrets and unravel the riddle. The clues, Savage's words, the scuff marks, the jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter, the notebooks, Dr. N, the draft will, the singed note, Henry's limp, and the bank key point to a deadly plot of greed. The sea's distant roar fades, and Poirot is ready to open the vault of truth. Poirot begins by reviewing Henry's confession, the bank key glinting in his hand. He took Carstairs' fortune, he murmurs, clutching the torn ticket stub from Henry's coat. But why Evans in Savage's last breath? Hastings leans forward, his voice tense. Maybe Evans saw something Henry's crime. Poirot nods, his mind racing like the train's wheels. Or she hides her own guilt. He recalls the singed note, Evans knows don't trust her, suggesting Savage suspected her. Betrayal. The notebook's payments to Dr. N tie Evans to Sylvia and Henry, but the bank key points to a hidden document. Perhaps the true will or proof of their plot. We search the bank, Poirot says, his cane tapping the train's floor. He sent a telegram to Inspector Japp, requesting access to the bank and Henry's financial records. In London, they reach the bank, a grand building with marble columns and a hushed air of wealth. The manager, Mr. Thompson, greets them warily, confirming Henry access to safe deposit box after Savage's death. He was nervous, Thompson says, with a woman dark hair, not blonde. Poirot's heart races, not Sylvia, but possibly Evans. He shows the key, requesting the box's contents. Inside, they find a sealed envelope marked Carstairs' will original, and a ledger listing payments to Evans and a Dr. Alan Carter, a local doctor in Marchbolt. Another player, Poirot murmurs, pocketing the envelope. Hastings looks stunned. A doctor. What's his role? Poirot's eyes gleam. He certified Carstairs' death. Mon ami perhaps too quickly. Poirot examines the envelope, finding a handwritten will naming Savage and Henry as co-heirs, dated before Evans's altered version. This was hidden, he says, to protect the Bassingtons. The ledger shows Evans received large sums from Henry and Carter was paid to stay silent. A conspiracy, Poirot says, his mind buzzing. He questions Thompson, who recalls Evans visiting with Henry, her nurse's uniform unmistakable. She was quiet but sharp, Thompson says. Poirot suspects Evans and Carter worked with the Bassingtons to secure the fortune, with Savage's death silencing his protests. He wires Japp to locate Dr. Carter, suspecting he's the final link to the riddle. Back in Marchbolt, Poirot visits the local surgery where Dr. Carter, a nervous man with greying hair, greets them. "Mr. Poirot, what's this about?" he asks, his hands fidgeting. Poirot shows the ledger mentioning the payments. "You certified Carstairs' death, none? Natural causes, Carter nods, his voice shaky. Heart failure routine. Poirot presses. Holding up the original will. Savage was cut out, and you were paid to agree. Carter's face pales, his hands trembling. I didn't know. About murder. He cries, admitting Evans convinced him to sign off, claiming Carstairs was dying. Poirot's heart races. Carter's silence enabled the plot. But was he at the cliff? Poirot questions Mrs. Carter at the inn, who recalls seeing Dr. Carter with Evans near the cliffs the day Savage died. They were whispering, she says, something about papers. Poirot finds a prescription slip in Carter's office, signed by Evans, for a sedative possibly used on Carstairs. They planned his death too, he tells Hastings, suspecting a double murder. A telegram from Jap arrives. Carter's bank records show payments from Henry, and he was seen with Evans in London. The net tightens. Poirot murmurs, planning to confront Evans again. The fog outside swirls, mirroring. The case is shadows. Poirot knows the bank's truth points to Evans and Carter. But the riddle, why didn't they ask Evans, holds the final key. We're unlocking the bank's hidden truth. With Poirot finding a secret will and Dr. Carter's role in the plot, is Carter the killer? Or does Evans hold the answer? Stick with us for Chapter 8, where Poirot faces Evans and closes in on the riddle's heart. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Carter guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer fog weaves a ghostly veil over Marchbolt's quiet lanes, its damp chill clinging to the cobblestones as Hercule Poirot, his moustache impeccably twirled, approaches Nurse Evans's modest cottage once more, with Captain Hastings trailing. Behind, his face tight with nervous anticipation. It's a cool evening in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his haunting last words. Why didn't they ask Evans, has grown more sinister with the discovery of Dr. Alan Carter's role in certifying Carstairs' death and the original will hidden in a London bank. Naming Savage as co-heir, the ledger's payments to Evans, Henry Bassington's confession, and the prescription slip for a sedative suggest a conspiracy involving Evans, the Bassington siblings, and Carter. Poirot's little grey cells are ablaze, piecing together the web of greed and betrayal. Poirot, Evans seemed so kind. Could she really be the mastermind? Hastings asks, his voice low as they knock on the cottage door. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, kindness, masks cunning, and Hercule Poirot will peel it away. Tonight, we confront Nurse Evans and demand her confession. The clues: Savage's words, the scuff marks, the jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter. The notebooks, Dr. N, the draft will, the singed note, Henry's limp, the bank key. And Carter's payments point to a deadly plot centered on Evans. The sea hums in the distance, and Poirot is ready to unravel her secrets. Poirot begins by reviewing the ledger from the bank, its payments to Evans and Carter burning in his mind. She altered Carstairs' will, he murmurs, clutching. The prescription slip, its sedative link suggesting foul play in Carstairs' death. Hastings adjusts his hat, his voice tense. Evans and Carter, killing two men for money? That's dark. Poirot. Poirot nods, his mind racing like the waves below the cliffs. Dark, yes, but driven by greed. Evans was trusted, yet betrayed. He recalls the singed note, Evans knows don't trust her, written by Savage, hinting he suspected her role in Carstairs' fortune. The notebook's payments to Dr. N confirm Evans worked with Sylvia and Henry Bassington, but the bank's original will, naming Savage, suggests Evans silenced him to protect the plot. We press her, Poirot says, his cane tapping the cottage path. She will break. Nurse Evans opens the door, her kind eyes shadowed with worry, her apron crisp but her hands trembling slightly. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, back again. She asks, her voice steady but strained. Poirot smiles, his tone polite but probing. Mademoiselle Evans, we speak of John Savage's death and Mr. Carstairs' will. You altered it, non? Evans's face pales, her fingers clutching the door frame. I nursed Carstairs, nothing more. Poirot shows the ledger, pointing to her payments. You took money from Henry Bassington, and this sedative was it for Carstairs. Evans steps back, her eyes darting to the locked box on her shelf. I helped sick people. She insists, but her voice wavers. Poirot presses. His questions gentle but relentless. Savage spoke your name as he died. Why didn't they ask Evans? Why? Evans's hands shake, her composure cracking. I don't know. She cries, but her eyes betray fear. Hastings distracts her with talk of nursing, allowing Poirot to notice a small diary in the box, its cover marked with the same. Lion ankle crest as Henry's Keir red herring from another case, but a sign of her secrets. You signed the new will, Poirot says, cutting Savage out. Evans slumps into a chair, her voice low. Henry paid me, he said it was legal. Poirot's heart races, she's admitting part, but not all, of the truth. Poirot shows the singed note, its warning chilling the room. Savage knew you betrayed him, he says. Evans sobs, her hands covering her face. He came to me, angry about the will. I didn't know he'd die. She admits Henry and Sylvia pressured her to change Carstairs' will, promising a share of the fortune. I gave Carter the sedative for Carstairs, she confesses, but I thought it was harmless. Hastings' jaw drops. You drugged Carstairs. Poirot's eyes narrow, suspecting Evans knew more than she claims. He asks about the cliff, noting her meeting with Carter near the murder site. I wasn't there. Evans cries, but her trembling betrays a lie. Poirot summons Inspector Japp, who arrives with a file on Evans. Her bank account swelled after Carstairs' death, with deposits from Henry and an unknown source. You profited, Poirot says, showing the diary, its pages listing meetings with Henry, Sylvia, and Carter. You planned Savage's death with them. Evans shakes her head, tears streaming. I only helped with the will. Henry, said Savage, was a threat. Poirot finds a letter in the diary from Sylvia. Keep him quiet, Cliff, tonight. You knew, he says, his tone cold. Evans collapses, admitting she told Henry where Savage would be, but denies pushing him. Henry was there, she whispers, with Carter. Poirot visits the Marchbolt surgery, confronting Dr. Carter again. You worked with Evans, he says, showing the sedative slip. Carter's face pales, his voice shaky. I certified Carstairs' death routine. Poirot shows the ledger's payments. You took money to stay silent. Carter admits Evans supplied the sedative, but claims he didn't know it was lethal. Henry paid us, he says, to secure the estate. Poirot's mind buzzes Evans, and Carter enabled the plot, but Henry's limp places him at the cliff. A telegram from Japp confirms Henry was seen with Carter near the cliffs, arguing the day Savage died. The net tightens. Poirot murmurs, planning to confront Sylvia again. Back at the inn, Poirot questions Mrs. Carter, who recalls Evans and Carter whispering about fixing things before Savage's death. They were scared, she says, of Savage's threats. Poirot finds a torn map in Carter's office marking the cliff path. They planned the meeting. He tells Hastings, suspecting Henry acted on Evans's tip. The fog outside thickens, mirroring the case's shadows. Poirot knows Evans's confession points to Henry as the killer. But the riddle, why didn't they ask Evans, suggests a final twist. We're unraveling Evans's confession, with Poirot exposing her role in the will and Henry's cliffside. Crime. Is Henry the killer, or does Carter hide more? Stick with us for Chapter 9, where Poirot faces Sylvia and closes in on the riddle's heart. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, Smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment. Below is Henry guilty? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer fog blankets Marchbolt's elegant Marchbolt Hotel. Its soft glow barely piercing the misty evening as Hercule Poirot, his moustache gleaming under the chandeliers, strides into the opulent lounge with Captain Hastings, whose face is etched with nervous determination. It's a chilly night in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his cryptic last words, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" has reached a fever pitch with Nurse Evans's confession that she altered Carstairs' will and tipped Henry Bassington about Savage's cliffside meeting, the map marking the cliff path, Dr. Carter's payments, and Henry's limp place him at the murder scene. But Sylvia Bassington's role as the desperate heiress looms large. Poirot's little grey cells are ablaze, weaving the threads of greed, betrayal and murder. Poirot, Sylvia's charm fooled us. Could she have planned it all? Hastings asks, his voice low as they spot Sylvia at a corner table. Poirot's grey eyes gleam, his tone calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami, desperation drives even the charming to darkness, and Hercule Poirot will expose it. Tonight we face Sylvia Bassington and unravel her desperation. The clues, Savage's words, the scuff marks. The jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter, the notebooks, Dr. N, the draft will. The singed note, Henry's limp, the bank key, Carter's. Payments, and Evans's dire point to a deadly family plot. The sea's distant rock carries a warning, and Poirot is ready to confront the heiress. Poirot begins by reviewing Evans's confession. Her admission of tipping Henry about Savage's cliffside meeting burning in his mind. Sylvia was. The spark, he murmurs, clutching the letter from her diary. Keep him quiet, Cliff, tonight. Hastings adjusts his tie, his voice tense. She set it up, Henry's the muscle, but Sylvia's the brains. Poirot nods, his mind racing like the fog outside. Her finances were failing. Carstairs' fortune was her salvation. He recalls Sylvia's notebook, its payments to Dr. N linking her to Evans, and the original will naming Savage, which threatened her inheritance. The singed note, Evans knows don't trust her, shows Savage suspected the plot. But Sylvia's letter to him, signed S.B., lured him to the cliff. We confront her, Poirot says, his cane tapping the hotel's marble floor. Her charm will crack. Sylvia sits at a table, her blonde hair glowing under the chandelier, her smile radiant, but her eyes guarded as Poirot and Hastings approach. Mr. Poirot, Captain Hastings, another visit, she says, her voice smooth but her fingers tightening on a wine glass. Poirot smiles, his tone polite but probing. Mademoiselle Bassington, we speak of John Savage's death. You wrote to him, non, luring him to the cliff. Sylvia's smile falters, her hand brushing her gold locket. I wrote about business, nothing more. Poirot shows the letter, its S.B. signature damning. You planned with Henry and Evans, he says. Sylvia laughs, her voice shaky. You're mistaken, I'm no killer. Poirot presses, his questions gentle but relentless. Your finances were desperate, and Savage threatened your inheritance. Sylvia's eyes flash, her composure slipping. He was a cheat trying to steal Carstairs' money. Poirot shows the notebook's payments to Dr. N. You paid Evans to change the will, he says, his tone sharp. Sylvia stands, her voice rising. I needed that money, my family was ruined. Hastings distracts her with talk of London, society, allowing Poirot to notice a small purse on her table containing a train ticket to London, dated the day after Savage's death. You fled with Henry, Poirot says, holding the ticket. Sylvia's face pales, her hands trembling. Poirot summons Inspector Japp, who arrives with a file on Sylvia. Her debts mounted before Carstairs' death, and she withdrew large sums after Savage's fall. You profited, Poirot says, showing. The diary from Evans's cottage, its meetings with Sylvia and Henry. You planned Savage's death. Sylvia sobs, her charm crumbling. I told Henry to scare him, not kill him. She cries. Savage was going to expose us to Carstairs' cousins. Poirot's heart races. She admits the plot, but claims Henry acted alone. He asks about Carter, noting his payments. He helped Evans, Sylvia says, but I didn't know about murder. Poirot's eyes narrow. Her desperation is clear, but her denial feels rehearsed. Poirot visits the golf club, questioning Mr. Lloyd, who saw Sylvia and Henry with Savage the day before his death. They were tense, Lloyd says, arguing about papers. Poirot finds a discarded note in the club's trash. In Sylvia's handwriting, meet H at Cliff settle it. She orchestrated it, he murmurs, pocketing the note. He questions Reverend Thomas, who recalls Sylvia visiting Evans after Carstairs' death. Looking anxious, she mentioned a mistake, Thomas says. Poirot's mind buzzes. Sylvia's desperation drove the plot, but Henry's limp and Carter's silence enabled it. A telegram from Jap confirms Sylvia met Carter in London. Discussing clean-up after Savage's death, she covered tracks, Poirot says, planning to revisit Carter. Back at the surgery, Poirot shows Carter the note. You knew Sylvia's plan, he says. Carter's face crumples, admitting he helped Evans hide the original will. Henry threatened me, he says. Said Savage would ruin us. Poirot finds a photo in Carter's desk showing Sylvia, Henry, and Evans at the cliff path, dated a week before the murder. They scouted it. He tells Hastings, suspecting a premeditated act. The fog outside thickens, mirroring the case's shadows. Poirot knows Sylvia's desperation fueled the murder. But the riddle, why didn't they ask Evans, points to a final truth. We're exposing Sylvia's desperation, with Poirot uncovering her plot with Henry and Evans. Did Henry kill Savage? Or is Sylvia hiding more? Stick with us for Chapter 10, where Poirot gathers the suspects and solves the riddle. If you're hooked on this seaside whodunit, smash that like button, subscribe, and drop a comment below. Is Sylvia the mastermind? Let's solve this with Poirot. The summer fog swirls gently around Marchbolt's elegant Marchbolt Hotel, its grand dining room aglow with chandeliers as Hercule Poirot, his mustache gleaming like a polished blade, stands at the head of a long table, his sharp grey eyes scanning the gathered suspects. It's a tense evening in 1934, and the mystery of John Savage's cliffside death, his haunting last words. Why didn't they ask Evans has reached its climax. Sylvia Bassington's desperate plot with her brother Henry, Nurse Evans's confession of altering Carstairs' will, and Dr. Alan Carter's complicity in hiding the truth have woven a deadly web of greed and betrayal. Captain Hastings, seated nearby, grips his chair, his face pale with anticipation. Poirot, you've got them all here, Sylvia, Henry, Evans, Carter. Who's the killer? He whispers, his voice barely audible over the sea's distant roar. Poirot's tone is calm but sharp as a knife. Mon ami. The riddle sparkles like the truth in a liar's eyes, and Hercule Poirot will reveal it. Tonight, we unmask the killer and answer why didn't they ask Evans, the clues Savage's words. The scuff marks, the jasmine cigarette case, Sylvia's letter, the notebook's Dr. N. The draft will, the singed note, Henry's. Limp, the bank key, Carter's payments, and Evans's diary point to a murder among them. The room hums with tension, and Poirot is ready to serve justice. Poirot begins by addressing the group. Sylvia Bassington, her blonde hair glowing but her eyes nervous, Henry Bassington. His limp pronounced as he shifts uneasily, Nurse Evans, her kind face shadowed with guilt, and Dr. Alan Carter, his hands fidgeting with a pen. Inspector Jupp stands by the door, ready for arrests. Ms. Amos, Poirot says, his voice commanding the room, John Savage was murdered. pushed from a cliff, and his final words, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" Hold the key. He holds up the jasmine cigarette case, its JS initials, glinting. This was found at the cliff, scented with Jasmine Mademoiselle Bassington's perfume. Sylvia gasps, her hand clutching her locket. "I lost it days before." She cries, but her voice trembles. Poirot paces, his cane tapping the floor, reviewing the clues. Savage was a businessman, tied to Mr. Carstairs, whose fortune he expected to inherit, he says, holding up the draft will from the bank. This named Savage co-heir, but a new will, signed by Mademoiselle Evans, gave all to Carstairs' cousins. Evans lowers her head, her hands clasped tightly. Poirot shows the singed note, "Evans knows don't trust her," written by Savage. "He suspected your betrayal," he tells her. Evans sobs. "I changed the will for Henry and Sylvia, they paid me." Poirot nods, his eyes shifting. To Sylvia, "You wrote to Savage," he says, showing her letter signed SBU lured him to the cliff. Sylvia stands, her face flushed. "I only wanted to talk about the will." Poirot's eyes narrow, holding up her notebooks. "Payments to Dr. N. You bribed Evans, none, with your brother Henry?" Henry's limp worsens as he grips the table, his voice hoarse. "We needed the money. Savage was going to ruin us." Poirot turns to Carter, showing the sedative slip. "You certified Carstairs' death, hiding the truth with Evans." Carter's pen snaps in his hand. "I didn't know it was murder." He cries, but his eyes dart to Evans. Poirot's mind races these for conspired. But who pushed Savage? He reconstructs the cliffside scene, sketching the table's layout in his mind. Though here it's the cliff path, Savage alone met Sylvia, with Henry nearby and possibly Evans or Carter watching. The scuff marks show a struggle, Poirot says, and Henry's limp matches the stranger scene with Savage. He holds up the torn map from Carter's office, marking the cliff path. "You planned it, non." Monsieur Bassington, Henry, shakes his head, sweat beading on his brow. "I argued with him, yes, but I didn't push him." Poirot shows the train ticket stub from Henry's coat, dated the murder night. "You fled after," he says, his tone cold. Poirot turns to Evans, her diary revealing meetings with Sylvia, Henry, and Carter. "You tipped Henry about Savage's cliff meeting," he says. Evans nods, tears streaming. "I told him where Savage would be. I didn't know he'd die." Poirot's eyes gleam, piecing together the riddle. Savage said, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" "Because you knew the truth about Carstairs' will." He reveals a final clue found by Jap, a witness statement from a fisherman. "Who saw a man with a limp and a woman with dark hair Evans near the cliff as Savage fell?" "You were there," Poirot says, pointing to Evans. "You pushed him." Evans collapses, sobbing. "I didn't mean to." She cries. "Savage confronted me. He knew I changed the will. He grabbed me, and I pushed him to escape." Sylvia gasps. "You lied to us." Henry's face hardens, his limp forgotten as he stands. "You said it was an accident." Carter looks stunned, his voice weak. "I thought Henry did it." Poirot explains Evans, driven by greed and fear of exposure, pushed Savage during their struggle, using Sylvia's meeting as a lure. Henry and Sylvia planned to scare him, with Carter covering Carstairs' earlier murder via sedative. "You all conspired," Poirot says, but Evans struck the fatal blow. Jap cuffs Evans, her kind face now a mask of guilt. Sylvia weeps, her desperation exposed, while Henry slumps, his greed undone. Carter hangs his head, his silence bought and broken. Poirot addresses the room, his voice steady. The riddle was Savage's plea. He knew Evans held the secret of the will, and his death was a desperate act to hide it. Back at the inn, Poirot sips tea, his eyes tired but satisfied. "Greed poisons, mon ami," he tells Hastings, "more than any cliff." The fog lifts outside and the sea sparkles with truth. This is the thrilling end of our seaside whodunit, with Poirot unmasking Nurse Evans as Savage's killer and solving the riddle. What did you think of this twisty tale? Smash that like button, subscribe and drop a comment below who was your top suspect. Share this video with friends. And let's keep the detective spirit alive with Poirot.